Hi there and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's dive into today's top stories. Journalists can genuinely see Arsenal selling 25-year-old for big money now. Aaron Ramsdale's position at Arsenal is coming under question. The England goalkeeper only signed a new deal at the Emirates this summer, but after the arrival of David Raya, his future is now being called into question. Ramsdale was, of course, dropped by Mikel Arteta at the weekend, and after losing his spot in the team, many are wondering whether or not the goalkeeper will be sold this summer. Speaking on Inside Arsenal, Charles Watts has been discussing the Ramsdale situation, and he says that he can genuinely see the 25-year-old being sold for big money next summer. Watts shared his verdict on the goalkeeper. He said, if Arsenal do decide to sell Ramsdale, and I hope it doesn't happen, but I can just see it happening though in the summer. If they do, even Arsenal cannot get big money for Ramsdale. An England international just signed a new contract, one of the best young goalkeepers in the world. If Arsenal can't get good money for Ramsdale, then we may as well just pack up and go home. While it would be a shame to see Aaron Ramsdale leave Arsenal, it has to be said that he is way too good to be playing second fiddle at any club. Ramsdale could genuinely do a job for the majority of teams in the Premier League, and if he were to stay at Arsenal as a rotation option, we'd have to say that he'd be wasting his career. Of course, it remains to be seen whether or not he will re-establish himself as Arsenal's number one ahead of Raya, but if he doesn't, he may well end up leaving. Pundit says Arsenal have a very good player who is barely getting a game. Arsenal beat Everton at Goodison Park for the first time in years on Sunday, and the hero of the day was Leandro Trossard. The Belgian attacker scored the winning goal at Goodison Park, and he, once again, showed his worth to this Arsenal side. The former Brighton man arrived at the Emirates in January for £27 million, and while he has consistently been brilliant whenever he has played for Arsenal, the winger isn't one of the first names on the team sheet. Speaking on the stand with Eamon Dunphy, John Giles has been full of praise for Trossard, labeling him as a top-class player who doesn't get enough chances in this Arsenal side. Giles spoke incredibly highly of the winger. He said, he is a very good player and he hasn't been getting into the Arsenal team. I know Arteta about him, but he doesn't play very much, but I think he is a top-class player. Everton are in big trouble. Arsenal played well. It wasn't easy for them, but it was a very professional performance from them. The fact that Trossard can't get much of a game for this Arsenal team just goes to show how fantastic the Gunners are right now. It's not an exaggeration to say that Trossard would be the best player for the majority of teams in the Premier League, but at Arsenal, he is just a rotation option. Arsenal have an embarrassment of riches at their disposal right now, and considering the depth they have in their side, you have to consider them among the very best teams in Europe right now. Mikel Arteta suggests £34 million Arsenal player has impressed him in training every day. Mikel Arteta has singled out Fabio Vieira for praise ahead of Arsenal's return to the Champions League tonight. Vieira was handed his first start of the season on Sunday as Arsenal picked up a 1-0 win at Goodison Park. The 23-year-old replaced Kai Havertz in the starting lineup and put in an encouraging display in the middle of the park. Arteta favoured Granit Xhaka over the Portuguese midfielder last season and has given Havertz a run in the side during the early stages of the current campaign. Vieira has struggled to nail down a place in Arsenal's side after making the £34 million switch to North London from Porto last summer, but it seems that the youngster has impressed Arteta in training lately. Speaking to the media ahead of Arsenal's clash against PSV tonight, Arteta suggested he has been impressed with Vieira's performances in training every day. He said, I said many times that I hadn't played Fabio enough and he hadn't had enough room in the team with the competitions that we played to participate more. But every day, we see the talent that he's got and what he can bring to the team. I was really happy with his performance at the weekend. Vieira has looked the part so far this season, despite being limited to appearances from the bench before Sunday's 1-0 win at Everton. It will be interesting to see if Arteta sticks with the midfielder over Havertz, especially with the North London derby just around the corner. Arsenal will be fully focused on their clash against PSV tonight as they make their long awaited return to the Champions League. But for the time being, Vieira deserves a run in the side as Havertz has struggled to adjust to life at Arsenal so far. Vieira has already contributed with 2 assists in the Premier League, having only made 3 appearances. Gabriel Jesus admits £30 million Arsenal teammate is quiet but still helps everyone out. Arsenal forward Gabriel Jesus has been piling the praise on club captain Martin Odegaard ahead of their first Champions League game since the 16-17 season. Arsenal have started the season off well, picking up 13 points from an available 15. Now they have the Champions League to deal with, something they didn't have last season. They need to make sure their top players stay on form and that they build momentum throughout all competitions. Both Martin Odegaard and Gabriel Jesus have both been big reasons for the Gunners getting back in Europe's biggest competition, and the forward piled the praise on his captain. With the Gunners trying to battle at the top of the Premier League and also compete well in other competitions, it's exciting to hear from the players. Jesus was speaking about the Norwegian attacking midfielder in Arsenal's Champions League press conference. The striker said, "He is a great guy, a great player by the way, a great guy also. He is quiet, he tried to help everyone." It will no doubt be a hard game for Arsenal in their first Champions League game of the season. This week, they face PSV at home, then face Spurs at home on Sunday. Hopefully, Odegaard continues to step up for the Gunners, and Jesus also does the same so that they have a good start to the Champions League. Last season in the Premier League, Odegaard managed a very impressive 15 goals and 7 assists. He already has 2 goals this season, so his good form looks to be continuing. The attacking midfielder moved permanently to the Gunners for around £30 million, and so far, it's proving to be a top bargain. Ben Foster says he wouldn't actually start 28-year-old Arsenal star he loves to bits. Ben Foster has insisted that he absolutely loves David Raya, but he would not pick him ahead of Aaron Ramsdale in the current Arsenal team. Foster was speaking on his YouTube channel after the Spaniard made his debut for the Gunners in their weekend win over Everton. Mikel Arteta made a real statement for the trip to Goodison Park. Aaron Ramsdale has been the number one for 2 years, but he dropped down to the bench against the Toffees, with summer signing David Raya coming into the starting lineup. Raya did keep a clean sheet, and with the North London derby just around the corner, it would appear that the former Brentford man is in pole position to start against Spurs this weekend. Foster insisted that he is a huge fan of the 28-year-old. However, the Pundit insisted that Ramsdale has earned the right to keep his place, and Mikel Arteta is taking a needless risk by bringing Raya in. He said, "I would stick with Rambo. I love Raya. This whole situation, I hate the whole thing because it's completely unnecessary. It's asking for trouble. I love David Raya to bits. I want David Raya as my goalie because I think he is fantastic. He should be playing for a top team in the Premier League, but so should Rambo. Rambo deserves it." It's important to stress that Arteta may yet be vindicated for his decision to sign Raya. Arsenal have got very little wrong in the transfer market over the last couple of years, and this may prove to be another masterstroke. Mikel Arteta says £6 million Arsenal player definitely won't be playing today. Arsenal have their first Champions League game in years later today as they face PSV Eindhoven in what should be a huge occasion at the Emirates. All of the North London club's work in recent years has been building towards this, but sadly, one of the Gunners' most important players won't be able to enjoy this occasion. Indeed, after picking up an injury against Everton at the weekend, Gabriel Martinelli isn't fit to feature in this game, and speaking in his press conference, Mikel Arteta confirmed that the winger won't be playing in this match. Arteta shared an update on the £6 million man's injury. He said, "He felt something in his hamstring and we need to do some further tests to assess if there is any big damage or not, but he will be out for today's game, that's for sure." Arteta then responded when asked if Martinelli will be fit to face Tottenham. He said, "It's a possibility, but we don't know yet. We need some more tests and see what happens." This is a huge shame for Martinelli. There arguably isn't a player in this Arsenal squad who has earned the right to play in the Champions League as much as Martinelli, but sadly, injury is now going to rob him of that chance. Martinelli is an absolutely brilliant player who will have plenty of other chances in this competition ahead of him, but you never forget your first. And the fact that he won't be on the pitch with his teammates against PSV just doesn't feel right. Sadly, Martinelli will have to wait to make his Champions League debut. Arsenal made right call not selling 19-year-old after a brilliant start to loan spell. Arsenal appear to have made a very good call by spending youngster Charlie Patino out on loan to Swansea City this season. The 19-year-old made the move in August to spend a second successive season in the Championship. Last season, Charlie Patino was one of the standout players at Blackpool despite their relegation from the second tier. Manager Mick McCarthy even admitted at the time that he ended up playing the England Youth International more than he expected. However, at the end of the season, it looked like Patino was set to leave Arsenal. His path to the first team wasn't particularly clear, as Arsenal narrowly missed out on winning the Premier League. Mikel Arteta was willing to reluctantly sell the teenager this summer, but an offer never arrived despite interest from plenty of clubs. Instead, Patino eventually left Arsenal on loan with no suitable offer looking set to arrive. It appears to have been a great decision from the club, given how well he is started at Swansea. Arteta may be wondering if there is a way to integrate him into the first team squad next season. Charlie Patino made his debut for the Swans against West Brom just 24 hours after signing for the club and recorded an assist that day. He added two more assists to his tally in his first 5 games already and is pulling the strings in midfield. Swansea manager Michael Duff has mainly used Patino on the left of midfield, which isn't a position he tends to play particularly often. After his debut, Duff said, "I thought Charlie looked good. He is a good footballer, but he also played with a purpose. He played forward but kept it when we had to keep it, so he was a real positive." It will be interesting to see what Arsenal's plans for Patino are when he returns from his latest loan spell. Fabrizio Romano shares what he is now hearing about Arsenal and Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney was one of the best strikers in the Premier League last season, and, in another word, he'd have already gotten a move to a top club. The Brentford forward is certainly good enough to play for one of the top teams in England, but due to his ongoing suspension, he's been unable to get a move this summer. However, in January, Tony's ban will be up, and according to Fabrizio Romano, speaking on his YouTube channel, the striker is looking to move in 2024. Romano says that Tony wants to move within the Premier League, and interestingly, he's been told that Arsenal are well informed on the conditions of this potential deal. Romano shared what he knows about Tony and Arsenal. He said, "We know that, according to my information, Brentford know that the player wants to leave in 2024. We will see if it's in January or in the summer. Ivan Toney has appointed a new agent because he wants a new experience in a top club. Many clubs have contacted Tony. I can reveal that Italian clubs asked for information about Tony, but the Premier League is the priority of the player. Chelsea are well informed on the situation of the player, and also Arsenal are well informed on the conditions of the potential deal. It doesn't take a tactical genius to tell you that Ivan Toney would be fantastic at Arsenal. This is a striker who can do it all. He can just as easily act as a false nine as he can act as a target man. He is a truly brilliant forward who would suit this Arsenal team to a T. Of course, whether or not this deal goes ahead remains to be seen, but it sounds as though there is a chance that Tony ultimately ends up at Arsenal. As we wrap up today's Arsenal news, remember to stay tuned for daily updates right here on the channel. Don't miss out on the latest updates, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you found this information valuable. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.